Have you ever felt like there's a vivid fire burning inside of you, yearning to break free and illuminate your life? That, my friend, is your vibrant life waiting to bloom. Welcome to the Vibrant Life Podcast. We are here to empower women just like you to liberate that vibrant life, to live authentically, and to harness the power within.
Our journey will take us through the enlightening realms of energy healing, goal setting, spiritual awakening, and so much more. We're stepping into the light of self-acceptance, of owning our power and potential.
If you have been yearning to dive headfirst into the world of entrepreneurship or awaken your spirituality or simply make peace with yourself, your search ends here at the Vibrant Life Podcast. As we embark on this enlightening journey together, we promise to hold your hand through every step of your journey to a more vibrant life.
Your adventure to true empowerment and authentic living begins here. Tap into the vibrant life you've always dreamed of. Subscribe now and join us at the Vibrant Life Podcast. Embrace your vibrant self. Until then, shine on.
Shine on.
I'm Cassie,
I'm Audrey.
and this is our first episode of the Vibrant Life Podcast. Today we're talking about tapping into your intuition. So, Audrey, how do you tap into your intuition?
I tap into my intuition in lots of different ways. I feel like I needed to start from how I figured out I had intuition and I needed to tap into it.
Yeah.
I was talking to a neighbor and she said something about seeing our neighbor's aura. And I was like, what? You can see auras? And all of a sudden it was like, light bulb, you can do cool shit like that too. So I sat with it for a little bit. It led me to a few different things, exploring my intuition. I found meditation. And meditation was amazing. It kind of led me down a rabbit hole of who I am and what am I doing here and how do I get information. So tapping into intuition for me is a daily thing, sometimes an hourly. Sometimes I check out for a while and I'm just doing my human thing. But it all comes back to who am I? Where did I come from? What am I doing here? And then knowing that all the answers I need in life are found in quiet.
Okay.
That I can find answers that way.
How do you define intuition?
I define intuition as an inner knowing of the bigger picture. I consider myself a spirit having a human experience.
Okay.
So my intuition is seated right here in the third eye, and that's where my higher self comes in. And sometimes your human self, your ego takes over and kind of runs things for a while, but all it takes is some good grounding deep breaths. Maybe something a little bit more than that, depending on how things are going, but it is listening to your higher self give you guidance.
Interesting. So do you feel like you always have to have quiet
No,
to tap into your intuition?
Absolutely
Or is it like
not.
and do you think it's a learned skill?
it kind of is a learned skill. We're all programmed to do things a certain way and act a certain way and be a certain way. For example, I went to school and then I had to go to college and then I had to get married and then I had to have children because that's what you do.
That's what you do.
That's what you
That's
do.
what you do. We were talking about this the other day.
Yeah.
We both got married because that was the next step.
It was the next step of searching, of
Right.
like
You've been dating for so long, you're at this certain age, or you've hit this milestone of graduating college or whatever it is. But that was the next step that we felt like we were supposed to take. Intuition, I feel like, is when you tap into kind of your gut. When I started finding my intuition, for me it was more actually trusting it. I think the way that I was raised was to shut down a lot of my own instincts. I just didn't trust myself. And I think when my marriage was falling apart, that's the first time my therapist was actually like, well, you already know what you need to do. You just need to do it. I was like, am I allowed to do that? And I had to work through that. Like, am I allowed to do that? Am I allowed to listen to my own wants, needs, and my gut instinct? And I spent a lot of time hiding from my own intuition because I think I had gotten myself into a relationship that I knew it wasn't right for me, but I was supposed to continue forward. So I spent pretty much all of my marriage being like, we're not going to dig into that.
Sure.
Because it's terrifying. Because once you tap into it, it's hard to ignore it.
You can't shut it off because
You
your
can't
higher
shut
self
it
is like,
off.
This
Right. This is not what you're
doing.
supposed to do. And then you have to act on it. Like, so if you can ignore it. But for me, it really tapped into kind of similar to you, I think, was, you know, my therapist was like, you know what you need to do. And then once I once I was like, okay, yes, and I gave myself permission to listen to it, in that particular instance, I was able to take action very quickly and to do it without a lot of doubt and guilt and this like kind of strife that I had been feeling for years and years and years. Like I didn't even know you could live without that. But then when you tap into it. So for me, it wasn't meditation. It was more journaling that I started out with, which is interesting because I don't journal today very much. But if I feel really lost, I will journal. But at that time, I had a newborn, so it wasn't like I had a lot of quiet time. So it was journaling. I'm a researcher, so it was a lot of reading about things and for once asking myself, do I believe this? Or does this align? Or does this feel true? And trying to tap into that. And then I got into meditating after a while. Yeah. So it's interesting. So today I feel like I can do just like a quick gut check as I'm doing things, but I feel like I'm still learning how to trust it.
Yes.
The letting go piece.
The losing control. Yeah, you're taught to control all the situations. Right. You're like, I need to control this and this and this. But I think what you said about feeling if things resonate with you or not is super important. There's so much information out there. There's a lot of interesting people out there sharing what they believe in things. And so I think researching all the things and figuring out what feels best to you, what resonates with you, that's what makes you your authentic self, is finding the things, the pieces that make you whole. So it's super important to know that journaling wasn't my jam, but you know that you can rely on it if you really need to.
Yeah.
I do the same thing. If I am really questioning something, I have to write it. So I do meditate, which meditate can look like a million different things. It's not sitting and being still. It can be driving in the car, it can be going for a walk, it can be working in your garden or painting a picture or anything that brings you quiet where you can kind of tune into your breath, but it's also not shutting your brain off. Nobody can sit in a dark room and shut your brain off and not have your mind go, blah. There's a million things happening there, right?
So here's the part that when I was first starting to meditate, and I still struggle with this, you would listen to the headspace things and they'd be like, okay, we're getting situated. And then be like, okay, now just notice your thoughts. And I have ADD. I don't know how people do that, but I'm like, which one? There's 30 in there? Then what? I've noticed them and I'm not supposed to do anything. I'm such an action-oriented person. So I'm curious. Do you have a similar experience when you meditate?
When it started,
okay,
for sure. And some days, yes.
Yeah.
Some days I can't shut it down. I have to say I've gotten to a really good place though where I can hop into that super quiet space, but I do feel like that is a gift that a lot of people struggle with.
Yeah, because then, let's say I do manage to get into that quiet space. Now what? Like,
what do I do?
Because my attention is not going to stay here very long.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's absolutely fair.
And I know I'm not alone in that.
You're not alone in that. I really love guided meditation too.
I do too.
Yeah. I like music. I feel like the music helps to make me feel the warm tinglies, like to raise your vibration.
We were talking about when your thoughts get scattered.
When your thoughts get scattered, yeah.
Like, so once you're in that quiet place, how do you stay in that quiet place?
How do you stay? That's why I like it.
What are you supposed to be doing? What's the point of being in a quiet space?
Right. I think when your thoughts get scattered, you just identify, okay, I had a thought, okay, I had another thought, and then see if you can focus on your breath. For me, I like grounding activities where I envision actual roots growing from my body into the earth, and then I envision the fiery ball in the middle of the earth and I connect to her and I pull down, and that's called grounding. You can do grounding a million different ways. You can go for a walk, you can take some deep breaths, you can drink water, you can get in the water, you could take a bath, you could use Epsom salts. Like whatever salts is also really good to help ground you down. You can take a metal spoon and run it down the bottom of your feet.
I've never heard of that one.
Just for a quick grounding exercise.
Interesting.
But that helps if all of your energy is focused up here. If you can bring that energy down and ground it, it'll help get you out of your headspace. Hence the name, I believe, and kind of get you back in tune. Like you want all your energy to be balanced.
I like this. Balanced.
Balanced, yes, without getting into too many details about what I do for energy balancing.
Yes. Okay, so how do you feel tapping into your intuition has helped you?
Immensely. So remember that status quo. You gotta do this, do this, do this, do this. This, for me, started during the pandemic. So it was like, okay, the world shut down. Why am I here? The sky is falling.
It was a time of intense fear. Like,
so much fear.
yeah.
I think that's what triggered it, honestly, was the fear. I think that you described that emotion perfectly.
Yeah.
So that immense fear and trying to navigate it. So then it led to this discovery of who am I, and the first thing I realized was all the toxic situations that were around me. And it started this profound journey of figuring out who I am, who I want to be surrounded with, and then bit by bit I kind of changed my life. I changed my job. I changed my job again. I cut out friends that didn't really help me feel fulfilled, didn't resonate with me. I was looking for my vibe tribe, which I really want to use vibe tribe in this podcast. I feel
Vibe
like
tribe, that's our people.
right. It's who we're calling in. It's who we resonate with. It's who we understand with, and who we don't judge.
Right.
There's so much judgment. I judged this person and that person, and that's what we were taught to do. We were taught to judge and compare ourselves to somebody else.
Right. And anyone not specifically on that same path with you, or like different, was scary. And I think in some ways that is ingrained with us within our culture, but there's so much blessing that you can have when you go out of it. I mean, growing up, I did travel the world, and I feel like my parents did a good job of showing us, you know, the different cultures, and that different isn't bad, but there was still certain criterias of, they can be different some ways, but they still have to, you know, believe these things or dress this way or act this way or whatever. And I think different cultures or beliefs were approached with a lot of fear. But that's getting off topic. What I was going to point out while you were talking was that this is a journey. It's little changes. Because I think sometimes as women, we're out looking at the internet for answers to a specific problem, or we can just feel like, oh, we're doing everything wrong, or I have to fix everything today. But for both of us, this has been, I mean, for me, it's been like a 6-year journey. We've both tried different jobs. We've both, you know, found people that we thought we were going to connect with, and maybe we're not connected with them anymore. We've changed a lot of things in our lives, but it's been one step after another. So it's not like you're going to tap into your issue today and just throw up your life and, you know, burn it all to the ground. Because it's also a learning process of what is the next thing for me right now? What is good for me right now? And for me, I am very much goal oriented. So for me, it was checking in with my intuition and saying, what ball can I move forward today? What is the next thing that's going to make the biggest impact on my life, or what do I need? And some of that starts with intuition, because you need to know what kind of goal you're setting. You need to know, I do it in like a seasons method. So do I need a season of rest? I'm going to set completely different goals based on where my energy is at, and you have to tap into yourself to know where your energy is at. And I think that was the biggest change for me, is I went from just like go all the time, always feeling behind, always feeling never good enough, always feeling like I should be doing more, wanting more, needing more, to then being like, okay, I can trust myself. This message, whatever it may be, is not serving me. This goal, whatever it may be, is not serving me. It's okay if that's for other people, but for me, I don't need a super high pressure job. Maybe that's not best for me right now. Might be in the future. I'll check in with myself then and figure that out.
Absolutely.
So it was hard to lose the control, but then there's also freedom in that, of that I don't have to have all my answers right now, but I'm also not just being some puppet that's moved around by some entity that I have no access to.
Absolutely.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. My new favorite phrase is, yesterday is history, tomorrow's a mystery, today is a gift. That's why they call it the present.
Oh,
And
I had to
so,
read
yeah, right. And so that to me is, I don't have to worry about what's coming. I've learned to kind of use that intuition to be mindful and aware of what's happening right here. But that was a long process to get there.
Yeah.
Like, I think my journey is a little bit shorter. It's been about 4 years now. But to look where I was 4 years ago on this, you do this, you do this, you do this, you do this, to now I'm like, hey, I've got amazing friends. I've got an amazing job. I really help the community. like I parent in a completely different
Yeah.
manner. That was a huge thing too, because
Yeah.
I felt like I needed to parent my kids like everyone else parented their kids, and guess what? That doesn't work for us.
Right.
So using my intuition to figure out all the little pieces. Now there's a lot of tools I've used along the way and things that I feel like people can help to, we'll get there
Yeah.
on helping people figure out what comes next. But the first thing I really think is finding a way to just tap in.
Tap in and pushing through any fear that you have to tap in. And trusting that you can trust yourself. I mean, for me, that was a big piece of first figuring out how to actually tap in. Like, how do you do that? But then being like, I can trust what I'm telling myself. I can trust that, and that's okay. And I know what's best for myself, not anyone else. You can have messages coming in and you can take those, but you still need to filter that through your intuition as you learn to trust it more. Oh, going back to your today is the present. I think it does, learning to trust yourself or tapping into your intuition, however you want to phrase it, that doesn't mean you stop planning for the future.
No, absolutely
Which I think
not.
Was one of my fears. I know was one of my fears of like, okay, so what, I just sit here, I'm in the present, I'm living for today, man, YOLO. Like, no, that is not how I work at all.
No.
But I think there is some freedom in that. I don't have to have it all figured out. But if I am listening to my intuition, I'm trusting that I'm setting myself up for the future that I'm meant for.
Absolutely.
So these things that I'm doing today, they don't always need to make sense to me, and they might be scary. I mean, we just talked about, I have a really big project coming to an end, and I don't know what's coming next. And it's taken me 6 years to get to a point where I'm like, kind of okay with that. Like, but I know the skills that I've been learning are what's meant to take me into the future, or the things that I did previously that maybe I would have used to viewed as a failure are the things I'm going to bring forward and are giving me success tomorrow. But it's like, I just wasn't ready for it then. Wasn't ready for it then. I might be ready for something now, but you're not just like throwing your hands up and not giving a shit about anything. I feel like it's more of an intentional way to live.
Yeah.
Than I was previously, for sure.
For sure.
In the past, it was all outside
Scattered.
Influences.
Yes.
And scattered.
Yeah.
It was all you should. And now it's, I am doing this.
So even though you're living more presently and you're more mindful, it's still okay to set really big goals for yourself, but you're just going to take things one step at a time, right? We're not going to like set out this giant goal and be like, oh my God, I have this and this and this and this and this to do. Sometimes you just have to plant a seed and let it grow for a while before you can really jump into something that's meant for you. And sometimes you have to be the right vibration to attract it in. We know that I'm energy and you're energy, and the things that we're doing are all associated with energy. So sometimes you just have to be on the right level to get there, and sometimes that takes some work before you can finally get there. However, dream big.
Right. And I think sometimes we can't get too attached to the end goal. I think it's powerful when you're setting a goal to envision that end goal, envision yourself living it. But going back to your vibrations, it's more of a feeling in my mind. And I didn't used to think this way, but I do now. It's more of a feeling, and it might look different.
Yeah.
So, for example, my dad died 7 years ago, and my mom was completely lost, but she wanted to travel the world, right? And she had this specific vision of how she wanted to do that. You know, at first she thought it was going to be with my dad, and then when he died, she had to rethink that vision. And then it was, okay, I need to find a new husband. That might not be true. So anyway, all this to say, she tried a bunch of different things, and now she's found herself in a job she loves. And later this year, her job is sending her to Thailand, Bali, Rome, Uganda, all these places to talk about her job and this thing that she's passionate about and things she loves to do. So she's living this dream she had. It just looks different than it used to, but it feels good. She's going to be gone from the end of April to the middle of July, not even coming back home.
Right.
Just bopping from place to place, just living her best life.
Right.
But it looks different than she
Yes.
did. In no time in her 30s did she look at herself in her 50s and go, you know what, I'm going to be a widow and I'm going to work for this organization that I've never heard of. But she had this idea of what she wanted, how she wanted to feel, and things she wanted to do. and she's doing it, it just looks different. So it's okay to set those big dreams. You just can't get too tied into how you get there.
How you get there. My daughter's therapist did, this is point A and point C, and point B is over here. So you want to get to C, but you might have to go to B before you can get to C.
Right.
I love that. You just have to be open to whatever comes, because I promise you the universe has way bigger things than you could ever imagine in store for you.
Yeah, and sometimes we're like, oh, I would really like this thing, but I'm not worthy of that yet. Or I'm not sure I could handle that. And so you have to hit all these points to get to where, and it might be beyond your wildest dreams.
Yep,
you just don't know.
I love
You
it.
just don't know. So we'll talk about goal setting next.
Perfect.
Yay! Let's do it.
Thank you for tuning into the Vibrant Life podcast. We hope today's episode has energized and inspired you to live your best life. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform so as to never miss an episode. And please take a moment to leave us a review. Your feedback fuels our mission to bring you more valuable content. Remember, your journey to vibrant life is ongoing. Stay connected with us on social media at Vibrant Life Society for daily tips, motivation, and community support. As we wrap up today's conversation, we encourage you to embrace each moment, pursue your passions, and prioritize your well-being. Together, let's create a life that radiates with energy and purpose. Until next time, live vibrantly. See you in our next episode.